Hey everyone, Art Burns here, wishing you well today. I'm back inside. Yes, it is so windy out there today. There's no way you'd be able to hear me. And I know I pushed the envelope on that on most days, but today it's just over the top. There's no way. So back inside, but I'm still very grateful to be here to talk to you today and to share some information about stress reduction and how we can, how we can reduce stress through very, very basic practices. And one of the most basic practices that I talk about, right, is the ability to just be present with what is going on and doing so without judgment. Okay, but that's only kind of the first half of it, right? Because most of the judgment that we do, or a good part of the judgment, maybe half of the judgment we do, sort of exercise, is the judgment of our experiences, right? We're stuck in traffic. We don't want to be stuck in traffic. We get angry that we're stuck in traffic. We squeeze the steering wheel a little bit harder. We don't let somebody cut in front of us, and if they do, we get angry at them. And this is the judgment that the traffic is terrible and we don't want to be stuck in traffic. And so to practice non-judgment in traffic is to just simply say, like, look, for whatever it is, right? It's not that I have to enjoy it. It's not that I have to love being stuck in traffic. I know that there's going to be ramifications for being late for work or late for my date or whatever it is, right? But at the same time, the more that I judge it as something negative and the less I accept what is happening, the worse I'm going to make the situation, right? So the traffic doesn't change whether I feel angry and squeeze the steering wheel and flip off other drivers, right? The traffic is still the traffic, right? So I can choose to remain calm in the traffic and not hurt myself even more, than I would by getting all stressed and worked up about it, right? And so, but as I say, that's only like sort of half of the judgment that we do, right? The traffic jams, the lines at the store, the what's for dinner, the dinner didn't get cooked right. These judgments that we perform, these are the experiences, right? But what we judge as much or possibly more, and most likely more, we judge our emotions and we judge our thoughts and we judge the feelings in our bodies, right? And this is, I mean, just think about when you get a headache, right? The first thing you do is you want to take an aspirin or Tylenol or whatever, to try to, relieve the headache, right? So often we just, that's the first thing that we try to do is to change the way that we're feeling. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take whatever you want to take to relieve a headache. I know how hard it can be to focus your mind with a headache and everything, but that's just one example, right? And to my mind, though, it is worth, maybe sitting with the headache for a few minutes, and just seeing, because oftentimes there's ways to get rid of the headache without taking medication, right? Maybe sometimes it's just getting up and getting away from the computer screen and taking a little walk, taking a few breaths of fresh air, maybe a glass of water, maybe something to eat. Generally speaking, the sensations of our body are our body calling for attention. And normally when you give your body attention, it will respond with feeling better. And so the physical sensations are the easy one, right? Like that's, it's a physical pain, either I'm going to relieve it or I'm not, right? But when we judge our emotions and we judge our thoughts, that's when things get a little tricky, right? Because what happens is we when we have a thought, right, and a thought of something that is something that might worry us, right, like some financial or social thing or romantic thing or some health issue, right? Those are the big four. Those are the things that usually cause us the stress response, right? When we feel a threat to the status in any one of those four areas, right? Financial, social, romantic, and health, right? Any one of those statuses that we feel a threat to, that's when the stress starts to come into our bodies, right? And so, but it's not just the thought of that thing, right? It's also the judgment of the thought of that thing, right? Like allowing our emotion of fear to attach itself to that thought, right? So for instance, you get an email that shows, a payment that you were supposed to get from a client isn't coming through, or you have a surprise bill that came in the mail, right? So a lot of times the initial reaction is like, oh crap, and that's a fear-based response, right? And when we engage in that fear-based response, that's when our body goes into the stress response, right? That's when the blood pressure rises, the heart rate speeds up, the digestive system shuts down, start breathing a little shallow and quick. We might even get a headache. We might even get like a little bit of a tunnel vision thing going if it's enough panic involved, right? And so this, of course, produces the sensations in your body, right? That you get the headache, you get the tightness in the chest, you get the queasiness in your stomach, right? And then that only compounds the thoughts and the emotions that you're going to feel after that point, right? And so a lot of times, something that's really, it's not about turning off those emotions. It's not about avoiding the thoughts, and it's not about avoiding the emotions that come from those thoughts that might be of something that's worrisome, right? It's much more about, accepting them and being present with them, right? Just, and what I'm talking about, right, is just to allow the emotions to come in. Allow yourself to process the emotions as they do come in and as they leave. And that's the important thing, right? To understand that the emotions, they are in motion. They're constantly moving through your body. The same way your thoughts are, right? Thoughts don't just park themselves inside your head. They're constantly moving. You have recurring thoughts because that's something that you're, particularly concerned about, right? And so allowing the thought process and allowing the emotions, and just like I said with the headache, allowing the sensations that are produced by these things, just allow them to come in. Some teachers tell you, almost like, you want to invite it for a cup of tea. You see that thought, right? That thought about the bank account, for instance, right? It's like, okay, come on in here, come on in, thought. Let's talk. Let's sit here for a few moments and just, kind of be present with one another. One of the great teachers in the world, Jack Kornfield, when he was in his monastic life at the monastery in Thailand, he said that when there was a conflict between two monks, believe it or not, monks do have conflicts, because again, it's not about, transcending or graduating to a place where you no longer feel conflict or you no longer feel agitation on any kind of level, right? And so in the monastery, when two monks would have an issue with one another, they would go to the head monk of the monastery and to, sort of voice their grievances. And Jack Kornfield tells a story that, the head monk would then tell them, okay, in the middle of the summer, go put on your heaviest robes and sit inside your hut. Of course, there's no air conditioning, and, it's Thailand. When it gets hot in Thailand, it gets really, really hot, in the jungle, right? And so he would have them, go sit for an hour with your heaviest robes on, when you're feeling anger, and just be present with that anger. Now, of course, this is a very extreme way to do it, and there's a reason why they do this at a monastery, but it can be very helpful to do this sort of thing, right? To like really kind of overexpose yourself in a way, right? Or maybe not overexpose, but at least expose yourself to the actual feelings that you're feeling, to the emotions, to the thoughts, and to the sensations that result from those two things, right? Again, the thing that we usually do, right, just like we talked about yesterday, right, is that we tend to, okay, I'm having this emotion, I got to push it away. I got to, I can't get rid of this. I can't have this emotion in my body right now. I can't have these thoughts going on in my body. I got to stop. I got to work. I got things to do. I can't deal with this right now, right? And when we do that, what we do is we then inspire a fear about those emotions, about the thoughts, right? And then again, that's where the stress starts creeping into our bodies, right? And then the body creates the sensations, creates more thoughts. So even as you're trying to get rid of the thoughts, the actual effort of trying to stop those thoughts produces more of those thoughts, right? And that's the trick here, right? So it's not about, it's not about pushing them away, and it's also not about clinging to the good ones, right? Because again, like I said yesterday about the vacation time, right? Like halfway through a vacation, I would be, clinging so much to this good feeling. I don't want it to ever end, and now I get afraid and I get sad that it's going to end in a couple more days, and now I'm not enjoying what's actually happening. And so the same thing could be applied to thoughts and emotions, right? When you're having a thought or you're feeling an emotion and that sensation in your body that the emotion kind of produces, right? You have a choice to either, or I shouldn't say, well, you have the choice, but the tendency is to either push away the bad thoughts, the quote unquote bad thoughts and bad emotions and bad sensations, right? Those things that we view as negative, right? That we judge as negative, or to cling to the ones that we judge as positive, right? But again, just like in any kind of experience outside your body, by pushing away or clinging to those emotions and those thoughts and those sensations in your body, you're only going to create a level of fear, which is going to produce the stress response, right? Which is going to take away from the good stuff, right? The stuff that you enjoy, right? That the pleasant thoughts and the happiness and the good feeling emotions, right? It's going to take away from those. It's going to draw energy away from them, and at the same time, the sort of uncomfortable sensations and the challenging thoughts and the difficult emotions, they're going to become much, much more so, right? They're going to become more uncomfortable. They're going to be more difficult. They're going to become more troublesome for you, right? And so the idea, again, is to simply, allow yourself to be present with what is happening, right? Whether that's something, traffic jam, or the thoughts, the emotions, and the sensations in your body, right? Just allow it to happen, and you might even, as I said, invite it. That's what Jack Cornfield was doing. That's what the monk was having him do. Like, put on your heaviest robes in the middle of the summer and go close yourself into this little hot hut, and while you're feeling angry, and really invite your anger in, right? Invite it in, have it, sit down and have a really uncomfortable cup of tea with your anger, and just get to know it. Because then what happens is, as we get to know these feelings and these emotions and these thoughts, now we get to understand them better. We get to understand where they're coming from. We get to recognize them much, much earlier in the process, right? So that we can, simply accept them more easily, more readily, and avoid all of the stress that they cause. And because we don't need the stress. Remember, stress is the physical response to a mental occurrence, a mental experience, and therefore it doesn't belong. It doesn't help. It doesn't do anything positive. It doesn't belong. All right, folks. So the bottom line of all this, right, is that it takes practice, right? You can't just simply one day wake up and say, okay, I'm going to be present with all my, my negative emotions and my hard thoughts and my, the uncomfortable feelings in my body. It's not that simple, right? It is simple, but it's not that easy. But however, the good news is that it does take just very simple practices, and they don't take very long to do. I mean, a few minutes a day, just done the right way, can go a long way. After a month or two, you'll be feeling a much, much different experience as it relates to the stress in your body. So if you have any questions, please hit me up in a comment, send me an email or a direct message, and let's talk. Let's see if we can help you figure out some simple practices that work for your life that can help you to gain this presence with your emotions, your thoughts, and the sensations that these things produce in your body. Thanks for listening. I wish you well. I'll be back again tomorrow. Take care.